Imagine this. You spend 4 years building the game of your dreams. You hire brilliant artists, writers, engineers. You burn through millions of dollars. You think, this is it. This is going to change online gaming forever. And then you launch it.
So we're making a web-based, massively multiplayer game. We have an excellent chance of being successful because we failed at it before, and the odds of failing twice at the same thing are
pretty low.
Yeah, astronomical.
And absolutely nobody shows up. Not your friends, not your early fans, not even your mom who said she'd definitely play it. Your team is tired, your bank account is crying, and your investors are quietly Googling how to fire a founder without drama. Most people would quit. Some people would cry. Some people would pretend it was just a learning experience. But Stuart Butterfield, he looked at the ashes of this failed video game studio and realized that the real treasure wasn't the game at all. It was a tiny internal chat tool his team built by accident, basically as a side project to talk to each other while building the game. A tool that would unexpectedly become a 27 billion empire. This is the insane, funny, chaotic story of how Slack was born, from absolute failure. Quick note before we dive in. If you love stories about startups, crazy pivots, and business surprises like this, consider giving this video a like and subscribing. I share these kinds of stories every week, and it really helps this channel grow while keeping the stories coming. So now, grab your popcorn, this one is wild. Chapter 1. The game that was supposed to change everything. Before Slack existed, Stuart Butterfield had one mission: build a magical online world called Glitch.
Humble and friendly, Alf T. Zillerland, Grendoline and Spriggan, Cosmopod and Mad!
And that's what this game is. You're inside their thoughts.
Now, Glitch wasn't your typical video game. There were no guns, no violence, no dark storyline, no sweaty 12-year-olds screaming in the microphone. It was peaceful, creative, weird, very weird. Picture a world where you can milk butterflies, grow bubble trees, and talk to giant floating giants who act like your spiritual life coaches. It was like Club Penguin meets a psychedelic TED Talk. And honestly, it was charming, beautifully animated, uniquely designed. But there was one tiny microscopic problem. Nobody wanted to play it. The team at Tiny Speck, Stuart's game studio, spent years building this dream. But every time they tested it, people were like, "Cool story, bro. Anyway, back to Call of Duty." Glitch launched and died. Twice. They tried relaunching it after redesign. Still didn't work. The company couldn't escape the depressing truth. They had a game that was loved by passionate designers, but not by regular humans. The game was too niche, too whimsical, too out there. And by 2012, Tiny Speck realized they had run out of time and money. The game had failed. Millions were gone. The team was crushed. Stuart wrote a heartbreaking goodbye letter to the players, basically saying, "We tried. We really did. We just can't keep the lights on." It was over. Or so they thought. Chapter 2. The hidden tool no one expected to matter. Here's where the story gets crazy. While they were building Glitch, the team had a major problem: communication. They were scattered across different cities, working on art, story, animation, engineering, all at once. Emails were too slow. IRC felt like it came from 1994. Their workflow was chaos. So they built their own internal chat system. Nothing fancy. Just a way to quickly message each other, share assets, and search conversations. In other words, Slack before Slack existed. They didn't think much of it. It was just a tool, a utility, like duct tape. Useful, but not a product. But here's the thing, the team loved it. They communicated faster, they solved problems quicker. Nobody was digging through email threads from 2009 anymore. It made work smoother, funnier, more human. After Glitch failed, the team was sitting around trying to figure out their next move. And someone, we don't know who, maybe a genius, maybe an intern, said, "Hey, what about the chat tool we made?" The room went silent. And then Stuart, who's built a billion-dollar company before, what is called Flickr, had a moment of clarity. This is it. This is the real product. The failed game wasn't the treasure. The treasure was the shovel they built to dig with. Chapter 3: Shutting down the game and the world's most drastic pivot. In startup speak, there's a word for a massive change of direction: the pivot. But this wasn't a pivot. This was a full-blown U-turn on the highway at 90 miles per hour. They shut the game down, refunded customers, told investors, "Yeah, that game you funded, we're not doing that anymore." Imagine telling someone who gave you millions of dollars, "So, the new idea, same team, totally different product, trust us?" In theory, that sounds insane, but Stuart had one big advantage. He already built Flickr, sold it to Yahoo, and had credibility. So they rolled the dice. They cleaned up the internal chat tool, rebuilt it with a clean interface, added channels, a modern UI, file sharing, search, and in 2013, they released it to public. They called it Slack, which is short for Searchable Log of All Conversation and Knowledge. One of the nerdiest acronyms ever, but nobody cared, because the product was incredible. Chapter 4: Day 1 Explosion, when the internet said, "Finally." The moment Slack launched, the response was ridiculous. Their sign-up counter literally broke. The service crashed. Stuart and the team had to scale like mad. Teams were quitting email overnight. Startups were begging to get access. People were tweeting things like, "Is it weird that I'm in love with a messaging app?" In just 24 hours, Slack had 15,000 users. 4 months later, they had 120,000 users. Within a year, 1 million daily active users. Slack wasn't just replacing email, it was changing how teams communicated. And the magic was this: Slack wasn't corporate, it wasn't cold, it felt fun. You could send emojis, make channels, share memes, comment with GIFs, or GIFs if you want to call it like that. It made work feel human. Chapter 5: The $1 billion Rise. By 2015, Slack had become the fastest growing startup ever. Investors lined up like it was a Black Friday sale. Valuation skyrocketed. 1 billion, 3 billion, 10 billion. The hype was insane, but not empty. Slack had massive retention, insane user loyalty, incredible branding, a fan base that genuinely adored the product. Slack became the default tool for teams everywhere. Tech companies, government organizations, NASA, yes, literally NASA, and so on. By 2019, Slack went public, a massive milestone. Wall Street officially welcomed the chat app born from a failed video game. But the biggest moment was still ahead. Chapter 6: The 27 billion Endgame. In 2021, Salesforce, one of the biggest software companies on the planet, bought Slack for a jaw-dropping $20.7 billion. To put that in perspective, Slack was worth more than Snapchat when it IPO'd, Twitter in 2020, Pinterest, Lyft, Peloton, all from side project, all from something they didn't even intend to sell. Imagine spending years building your dream, and the thing that makes you rich is the tool you build just to stay organized. Life is weird. Chapter 7: The Lesson. Slack's story is one of the greatest startup pivots ever, but it's also a reminder of something deeper. Sometimes the thing you're building, the thing you're obsessed with, the thing you're convinced will change the world, isn't it? Sometimes the real opportunity is hidden in the tools you use every day. Slack wasn't born from success. It wasn't born from glory. It wasn't born from a genius master plan. It was born out of failure, out of disappointment, out of a desperate search for what to do next. And that's what makes the story so human. Because sometimes failure isn't the end. Sometimes it's the beginning.